This is the finished piece, and we are going to see together how you can achieve this look using polymer clay and a handful of tools. So this was my trial piece. I tested this idea on this piece, and then I've made the second one with the green during during the process I filmed the tutorial. So I'm working with scrap clay, and I encourage you to use your scrap clay for such a project. And I have properly conditioned the clay, and then I passed this through the largest setting of my pasta machine. Then I'm cutting out a piece of clay that is of the right size for the pendant that I intend to make, so I have the desired area to work with. And then I've just passed the scrap clay again through the pasta machine. This time I used the setting number 6 of my Atlas pasta machine, meaning that I ended up with a very thin sheet of polymer clay. And then I'm just going to use a template drawing that I've printed out, and that you can download from the link in the description. So this is a lion sketch that I've downloaded from the internet, and it was free and copyright free as well. And then I've just used my dotting tool to impress this lion sketch detail into the polymer clay roughly. I'm interested in the in having the details for the face, but less in the details for the lion's mate. And then you'll just have to use your craft knife and remove the clay in some areas, so that you'll have see-through areas in your piece. So I'm removing the clay from the areas inside the eyes. I will remove clay from the areas inside the nose, and I will contour the mouth and the outline of the face. And in the same time, I'm very careful not to remove too much clay, and I don't want to cut from one opening to the other. I would prefer having this piece with the black clay parts well connected if possible. And as you can see in the trial piece, these areas will allow you to be see-through areas, and you will be able to see the first layer, I say, of the piece, that is decorated with metal leaf and alcohol inks. And you should take your time, and you should be very careful, because we are working with a sheet of polymer clay which is very thin and very fragile. And I'm also creating openings in the fur of the lion, in the lion's mate, but here I'm not sticking to the initial design. I can be more I can go freehand cutting on those areas. And in case you notice that you have areas where the clay base is opening up, you could press those pieces together. And anyway, we are going to put this thin sheet of polymer clay on top of stronger base of polymer clay, so don't worry. And in the same time you should be careful to remove those tiny bits of clay that you will have while cutting through the clay like this. So as you can see, I've made larger openings, smaller openings. There's no symmetry in the piece, in the lion's fur, so but you'll have to keep in mind that the more openings you have, the more areas to show through you'll have, so the more color will be popping up in your final piece. And then you'll just have to use your dotting tool and smooth off the edges of these cutout areas, or even enlarge your cuttings if you want to. And especially for the face, for the eyes, it is very important to take the time and make sure that these details are very well cut out and they look nice. And we are going back to the base, made of scrap clay, passed through the larger setting of my Atlas pasta machine. And I've used silver metal leaf to decorate this base. And you'll just have to use your fingers, or I don't know, scissors, to trim off the excess metal leaf. And for the piece that I'm demonstrating to you, I'm using Baja blue and Sunbright yellow Pinata alcohol inks. While for the trial piece, I've used chili pepper red and Sunbright yellow. And you can use a toothpick to blend the colors if you want to. I decided to add a little bit more yellow ink because I thought the colors were a little bit too dark. Playing with inks is always fun. And of course you can use tissue paper and remove the excess, or if you think that your colors are too dark, you can use tissue papers and remove the excess color, and you will get a lighter shade. Then I recommend you to let the ink dry. I had to speed up the process and I didn't have the heat gun near, so I went on with the process without allowing the ink to dry as it should. And then I've applied a little bit of liquid polymer clay as a bonding agent, as a glue. And then I've just gently pressed the thin sheet of polymer clay with our lion sketch cuttings, and then I'm just going to use my dotting tool to press the clay into the base and in the same time texture the black polymer clay and this texturing will give a faux um, edge metal, faux metal look to the finished pendant after applying silver mica powder, of course. You could finish your pieces with without adding mica powder if you like this contrast between the black or the polymer clay of your choice, or the resulting color of your scrap clay. Or if you like this faux metal look for your pieces, you can use silver or gold or copper mica powder to finish this design. And then I decided to use the flexible blade and cut out a free-form shape for the pendant. You can use cutters, you can use templates. As you can see, I didn't allow the ink to dry properly. I was in a hurry, but if you have the time, I encourage you to allow to let the ink dry. I'm using a brush and I'm applying mica silver mica powder on the sides of the pendant. You could use polymer clay and make a beautiful border, of course, if you want to. And then I'm just going to flip the pendant carefully, of course. I don't want to destroy the design. And I'm going to work on the back of the pendant. So the pendant is not cured. The clay is raw, so I'm careful while I'm handling the pendant. And I will do the same texturing, dotting with my dotting tool on the back of the pendant as well. And of course I'm going to apply silver mica powder on the back of the pendant as well. And this allows me to cover the ink droppings that you can see on the back of the piece. If you don't want to use mica and you have such a droppings, you could add another layer of clay and make a back for the piece, and you could easily hide such droppings in case they might occur. Of course, you should take the time and smooth off the edges and make sure that your piece looks nice before putting it into the oven. So I'm making sure that the sides are smooth and that they look nice. And then when you're happy with the look of your piece, you can put the clay into the oven for 45 minutes at the temperature recommended by the polymer clay manufacturer. And then I decided to finish the design and get a faux glass look, like faux glass insertions. And I've added UV resin in those openings, so I'm not putting resin on all over the piece. I'm doing my best to apply resin in those openings where you can see the metal leaf colored with inks, and I'm using my dotting tool to apply UV resin in tiny um, areas. I realized that I needed a thinner tool for some areas. You could use a toothpick to do this. And personally, I really like the effect and the contrast between the rough faux metal areas and these slightly shiny faux glass insertions. And I hope that you like these too. So I'm not working on the piece because I don't want resin outside of the openings. I prefer working on a piece of paper and taking small amounts of resin on top of my brush, and then applying them in the areas where I want them to be. And then I did the same for the second piece. I've poured resin in those openings as well, and then I put my pieces under the UV lamp for 5 minutes. And then the last step of the process, you'll have to protect the mica. If you decided to use mica for your piece, so in case you've applied mica powder, you should consider protecting the mica powder using varnish. I'm using a transparent um, matte varnish, and of course you'll have to apply varnish on the front of the piece, on the sides, and then when the front is has dried, you should flip the piece and apply some varnish on the back of the piece to protect the mica on the back of the piece as well. And these are the finished pieces. So as always, I hope that you liked the tutorial. I hope that you like this idea and that you are inspired to create more using polymer clay. Thank you. Please press the like button if you like the tutorial, subscribe to receive more inspiration for your work with clay, and stay tuned for more inspiration for your work with clay.